Join us again. Yes, we're talking cybersecurity, and we've got Mrs. Favor Femi Oyewole, who is a member of the Cybersecurity Review Committee. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Morning.
So it was this committee that essentially reviewed that 2014 policy before it came up with this particular one. We heard the NSA, they talk about the gaps that existed. They wanted a proper solution. So what was the gaps about?
Actually, the maiden edition of 2014, you know, the cyber threat, it keeps evolving. Threat landscape keeps evolving. And it's supposed to be a living document. All the threats or all the things that were envisaged at the 2014 first edition, definitely many of them either were not carried out or because the threat landscape have changed. So there was actually a need. It was supposed to be a 5 years life cycle. And at that time, by the time of 2019, we was already due for extensive and overhauling review, which was why the committee was formed again. And I represent the private multi-stakeholder committee. And so we're part of the people that review this particular edition right now.
So what did you say was not carried out? Any example of some of the policies?
There are some, you know, from the policy and the strategic document, there are some key initiatives that were expected to drive the policy and the strategy for cybersecurity for the country. And one of them is the establishing of the National Cybersecurity Coordination Center. That was supposed to be the umbrella upon which every other pillars and every initiatives and strategic action item were supposed to be carried out. These were yet to be done. I guess this is one of the key things that is going to be taking effect after this launch again.
One of the questions that will come to mind naturally would be, since we are talking about security, well, of course there are several issues to it, but since we are talking about security, it's suspected that it's supposed to be more preventive than fighting, you know, an incursion. What's the plan in that regard?
For cybersecurity, the era of just planning is not just, yes, to plan, but you have to build resilience. Now, the country has to get to the point whereby, because the next warfare, I mean, really, the next war is cyber warfare, and which means that as a nation, we also have to get to that level of cyber maturity, whereby, you know, which cutting across all the various multi-stakeholder, the various partners within, collaborating within the private, the public sector, and also the governmental entities and all that. So these will also enable us to take, gain that maturity to the level in which we can be able to foster energy, and everyone has a role to play with this.
Is there my apologies. Is there a plan to shut down some social media sites? I ask that because, I mean, if it is about cybersecurity, there might have been a consideration or contemplation that because certain galvanizing was done through the social media space, and since government is already talking about, you know, regulating the social media, this might find a way into this document that you're talking about. Is there a plan to initiate that action of government through this policy?
In actual fact, it's one of the pillars for this new edition is governance. I mean, a lot of things is going to be done with governance around it, and this is really going to, you know, be able. It's applicable in a way, but there are other bigger issues for us as a country where it comes to, you know, living the cybersecurity and enhancing the maturity level of cybersecurity for the nation, which is which are the things that are going to be focusing. They are under the 8 pillars of this particular edition that we're speaking to now.
What do you say is applicable in a way?
As in applicable in the sense that every country has the right to put some level of governance around their cybersecurity, the way it is used. I know that there's the weapon of using the social media and all that, but But then people really need to understand these things. It's not just enforcing them not to use. You can't stop anybody from using social media, but there is a way that people will understand that the level of education, the level of awareness, to know that if they think they're actually hurting somebody, indirectly they're hurting themselves, because everyone has digital presence and everybody is responsible for security. In fact, security is everyone's responsibility.
You know, when the committee was doing this review, did it ever come up that this is a policy? Is it a law? What's the position of the law on this kind of things? Because, first of all, did it ever come up? Or what was the kind of...
There's actually a law that is, an act that is backing up the...
this policy?
Yeah, this backing up the Nigerian cyber security policy and strategy, and that is the Cybercrime Act Prevention and Prohibition.
Why did the committee or the policy deem it necessary to include social media or fake news? Because, I mean, several lawyers have said time and again that the laws of sedition, the laws of libel cover a lot of grounds in this regard. So why were they specific? Why was this policy specific on those two issues?
Specifically, they have to mention it, because when you're coming up with policy, you still have to mention some, element of things that you will address, but not necessarily that is the reason why that policy is formulated in the first instance. And we know that social media is really what is going to drive a lot of things for either individual, organization, or even as for a nation. So it's also expedient that people know the right ways of using some of these things, and it comes out from education. And what NCPS is going to really do in this light is to first start to do more of awareness, education. People will know. The more people understand what is expected of them, as they carry themselves, as they browse the internet, as they tweet and do whatever it is. It's more of understanding. Many people do many things because they don't really understand. So driving that awareness on a national level, education at the national level, it will actually bring a lot of sanity in some things, and to drive down culture as well.
So what do people really need to understand? There is a way people are used to doing things. And you've talked about certain 8 pillars. I don't know if that's where it will be relevant here, but what is it that people need to understand when they get online? Because that's about the only way people have to express themselves.
For instance, they say there's a freedom of speech and word of view, but then there is a limit to whatever you have to say that's going to hurt the other person, if it's not based on fact. I know that many of the things that people speculate at times perhaps are not based on fact. That is not to say there are no element of truth in what people are saying, but then just being to know where is the boundary. To what extent do you say this when you don't have it based on fact? But talking about the entire the cybersecurity policy and the strategic document for 2021. The 8 pillars that we are referring to is also going to foster, bringing and enhancing opportunities in the usage of internet.
What are these 8 pillars?
The 8 pillars, we have one as in strengthening cybersecurity governance and coordination, and also we have the protecting the critical national infrastructure, which is a CNI, which is, for instance, like I was saying, that the cyber warfare is going to be. The next one is cyber warfare. For instance, a cyber attack can grind or just completely shut down a national grid. It can shut down the electricity. It can shut down, your airport or everything. It's just a matter of somebody having a foothold, and taking the key things, maybe taking out the server that is in charge of that particular thing. So there are other bigger things that cybersecurity, that as a nation, should really pay attention, which is a critical infrastructure. We need to identify this infrastructure. We also need to plan in protecting them. Then also the issue of online protection abuse is also there, which is, I think, is one of the things we're talking about. Then even the children, is also catered for in this policy and strategy, so that there is a law that guide and protect children online, and so that most of the news and some of the things we have, working and collaborating with several organizations and bodies within the country, and also international partners. Then one of the pillars also talks about international collaboration. because the issue of the, we're talking about a borderless thing. For cybersecurity, you cannot handle it alone, because there are things that you need to, collaborate with other countries. You need to harness strength. You need to, work on each other. You need to team up to achieve some various things. So the part of the pillar also highlights that particular fact too.
I know that there's been several attempts back and forth on the part of the National Assembly and the government to regulate social media, and the people in turn have made their voices heard in terms of how they feel of all of government's plan to do that. So is this, because bringing that into this policy, of course you have people who would think this is government trying through the back channel to clamp down on social media?
I mean, that would be absolutely wrong for anyone to think about that, because of all the things that the nation is faced with cybersecurity crisis and threats and things, attacks here and there. I think social media is just, maybe a drop out of it, because there are so many other things that we're collectively working together as partners, as team players, we have to address as a nation, and this is just a drop out of it. Let me just say,
so
put it that way.
Give us an example. If one tweets or retweets, what kind of thing can one do that will make one liable according to this cybersecurity policy now?
There is no way, especially that was stated that you say something is because you have said something and it's counted as a fake news, you are going to be sentenced. It's not stated in any way in the policy. Now, it's just harnessing the good use of information. Just people being guided. It's just like the basic common etiquettes or good use of the computing of information in the cyberspace. Now, another thing from the pillar, which is also one of the pillar, is harnessing and promoting regulatory, framework, law enforcement agency, because you also need, if you're talking about cybersecurity, is as far as you know. What you don't really know, you can't really even correct, or you can't even bring into that kind of perspective. So there's going to be a lot of education, awareness, harnessing, the law enforcement agency, working together with various partners just to ensure that the Nigeria economic is safe for you and I to do our business. Because everybody business, either individual, either organization, you all have a presence on the internet, and we will be able to do it in a way that it is safe for you, it is also safe for me as a person.
Since we're talking about security, is it part of the plan, whether in the near or far future, because when it comes to security, you need to barricade certain areas, physical security, that you need to barricade certain areas so that people don't get access to it to destroy one infrastructure or another. Is it anywhere a plan in the near or far future to restrict certain websites from getting into the country, or to restrict people from accessing certain websites in the country as a measure of security?
Well, I guess we will get to that point.
Will we ever get to that point?
Yes, we will get to it, because I know
point of security.
I know some country, they can actually shut down some particular website, and I think that it's just this direction, this roadmap we're currently embarking on now, will actually help us to achieve that. It will not really cost any country to say, I don't want this particular traffic. That means from every perimeter, all the ISP, it just drop as a traffic. That traffic will drop. That even if you try to do it, for instance, I know of maybe in Dubai or something, as WhatsApp, you cannot do WhatsApp voice. You can chat, but you cannot do voice.
Are they planning to copy it here?
I'm not saying that.
Oh.
But I'm just telling you, to the extent that a country can exert, authority based on what, their risk appetite, what they understand, how they want to curtail things, they want things to be done in the environment.
So this is in a way saying that eventually we may get to the point where certain social media sites are shut down from coming to Nigeria.
I don't think the purpose of this document is aimed to shut down anything. I guess Nigeria as a country is a bit liberal, and it gives people the opportunity to express themselves. there are so many other good things we can do together to make this country greater than what it is now. And that is what, working together with various stakeholders, we're going to achieve.
Okay.
To get to do.
Yeah, part of the NSA's remarks on that launch yesterday, part of it was saying it was going to safeguard our critical national infrastructure and ensure the protection of our cyberspace from cyber attacks, online fraud, and other related illicit activities, including fake news and hate speech. How did they determine what is hate speech?
That one in particular, I could see that the discussion is really centering around this hate speech, fake news, all that.
People, like to talk about the intent of the law. They like to understand what is the thinking behind some of these things and find out if existing laws don't already provide for it, so everyone can be on the same page, so that people don't have private interpretation of the law. That's just it.
In actual fact, for the protection of our cyberspace, there are so many things this new edition 2021 of Cmtte SP is going to achieve for us, and that is protection of our cyberspace. And in protecting our cyberspace, and it is anything that will promote economic growth for the country is actually what is going to fly. And at the same time, centering on hate speech, fake news. Yes, in the context of, there's some times that people use, and let me just put it like that. People use it, and within the confinement of law or of interpretation, you might not be able to exactly say that, okay, this is how it is going to be measured out, or how it's going to be, implemented. And, there are some words that, it's becoming common, but honestly, is not the reason why this particular policy is drafted.
Okay, since you talk about economic development, and we know that in Nigeria, the most populous catchment of people are young people, and the people that you are likely to find more in the cyberspace are also young people. What's the plan to engage them? Because if let me use the word, unleash security agencies on them, we'll probably be going back to where we were, in terms of insecurity along that day. So what's the plan to bring the young people under the fold to ensure that, they also have a buy-in on this? So we're all on the same page.
There's a lot of things that is going to start coming to the limelight with regards to that. Just as you have said, the youth they had the future of the country, and whatever any government is doing that is not considering that is not going to get us to where we desire to be. Now, for cybersecurity to really strive in the country, there's a lot of things that are going to come up with capacity building. I know there are hubs already that relate to cybersecurity. We also want to be able to, bring on board to localize some of these skill sets. By the time we pay attention, to our youth, and we're able to harness the energy, allow the giants in them to emanate, is also going to be to the good of the country. So a lot of capacity building things is going to
Just give us a minute. We need to go to break, but we'll come back and let you complete your thoughts in a moment. Just stay with us. Welcome back. Could you conclude your thoughts on the economy, boosting the economy for young people?
That is coming up with various programs that is going to enhance capacity building. And you can see that globally speaking, cybersecurity risk is even very scarce. Almost everybody is having a pinch of it. But for us as a country, just like some other country that believe so much in cybersecurity have done, the strategy that has been put in place is to ensure that the entrenched cybersecurity mindset skills into the use as they're coming up, and they create the platforms for them to be able to grow and to enhance that skill.
How do they plan to do that?
Either from building it into their curriculum, working with the various education sector to ensure that cybersecurity is entrenched, and the skill set is also, it becomes, if they're used to it, and they also give the platform for them to learn.
Okay, so what plan is there to improve the internet penetration in the country and ensure that the telecommunication companies don't squeeze the people or throttle the broadband provision for the people?
Yeah, something was recently approved, which is going to help with that, and with deepening the internet penetration, make it cheaper for everyone to avoid, thereby also driving the economic growth for the nation, and also driving inclusion so that people can participate, people can learn, because there's really so many things that you can derive, gaining access to the internet these days, especially if you know how to explore the benefits that's embedded inside it.
So what part of this policy holds government accountable or says government, these are your limits, these are things you cannot encroach upon the people, because government has capacity to either hack into individuals' private, tap your lines or phones or something? Are there any laws restricting government from just unilaterally doing that?
From the policy and strategic perspective, there is nothing that captured that area that said the government have the liberty to do this or to enforce this. The key thing is let us build.
Is there anything that says they can't specifically spells it out, so they know that if you try or somebody finds out that you're trying, then you could be liable?
Well, I would not be able to speak to that. But one thing I know is all through the document, there was no area that say that gives the government the liberty to do something like that. So it was not. So if they're not up to do it, which I'm not thinking they're thinking right now.
Is there a timeline to some of the activities of this policy? Just as you said, 2014 needed to be reviewed because certain things were not done. Is there a timeline to get some of those things done so that we don't have to come back to this particular system?
Absolutely. That was one of the concerns that we, the committee that were part of this review, we put our feet strongly on. I said, no, we cannot come back in the next 5 years, and we're singing the same song.
Or 2 years.
Or in the next 2 years, so that, and that is why all the action items, there are specific tasks, specific action item that is we are expected to do, and we also put timeline, like the establishment of the National Cybersecurity Coordination Center, the NCCC, which governs like the umbrella of all the activities, working with various stakeholders and partners within the nation. This is the first thing, and I believe from our timeline, it was put to be between 0 to in the next 3 months, or at most 6 months. So that is also, so every of the initiative, because we have about a couple of initiatives under each pillar. And this initiative, and I think what we are, or the body, the coordinating body, which is the Office of the NSA, is expected to, to be, will I say, accountable for. Because we have, as committee, we have done our review, and we have said that, look, this has to happen. For this to really become a success story, this is the roadmap.
Okay. We have to thank you for coming on. I know that there are several areas that people will still need to look at this and feel some things are not that clearly spelled out. But maybe when they look at the end up CCC, who knows? But we do thank you for coming on.
So thank you. And Favor Femioli, I represent the private stakeholder, and I work with Access Bank as the group CISO.
Thank you very much indeed for coming on this morning. All right, let's quickly take a look at some comments coming through from you just before we call it a day or a morning, whichever way. Ahmed Abba Ghana says, talking about cybersecurity, incidentally, it is critical to have cybersecurity professionals in the country. This will go a long way to secure our financial system. Maybe it's a bank or two. Right now, we don't have cyber infrastructure to protect, but the SP is timely.
Well, ban anybody. That's the Twitter handle. Says, with all the cybersecurity Nigerian banks claim, Nigeria still lost a whopping 3 billion naira plus to cyber fraud. Many of which, if you walk into the bank, they will find anything possible to make it the customer's fault to remove themselves from being liable.
Cyber policy should be about actually talk about this. It's not my fault if my money gets away from the bank. Bank should be able to what? Guarantee me my money.
But if you didn't give someone your password or PIN or something.
If you didn't give away your PIN number, your OTP, or you give your phone to somebody that uses it.
About to start another
Nobody
program
gives that away deliberately.